Hello and welcome. Here's wishing all of you a very happy Deepavali. I hope you're having fun with your family, your friends and your loved ones. On the news track this evening, we'd look at the day after Diwali. Are pollution levels now beginning to come under control? Is there a long-term decline that is visible in the level of pollutant matter? Or is it actually because of natural circumstances like the heat, like the wind, that pollution feels lower than it usually is after Diwali? Can we sit back and be assured, or is the worst still to come? All that and more is my top focus on the news stream.
Cracker ban up in smoke. Delhi chokes after Diwali. Air quality plummets. But is the worst yet to come? Big focus on Newstrack.
The cracker ban was up in smoke in the capital this Diwali. Air quality plummeted again and Delhi ranked the most polluted city in the world today. However, if you compare the pollution data to past Diwalis, this time Delhi's air was relatively better. But it seems the worst is yet to come.
Every year Delhi and the National Capital Region face a predictable yet alarming post-Diwali spike in pollution. Despite a blanket ban, revelers burst firecrackers on Thursday. Air quality plummeted overnight, pushing Delhi into the very poor category, nearing severe. Friday morning, residents woke to a city blanketed in thick smog, with air quality readings reaching distressing levels. Delhi recorded an AQI of 359, Gurugram 348, Ghaziabad 316, Noida 293. Diwali left its mark on the roads that were littered with firecracker residue and debris. But with the wind patterns favorable, the skies cleared around noon. The Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP clashed in a blame game over the city's air crisis.
आज मामूली बढ़ोतरी देखी गई है, लेकिन इससे निष्क्रिय होने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि अभी भी हमें जो अगले 10 दिन हैं उसमें सक्रिय रहने की जरूरत है और इसलिए सरकार आज से अपने अभियान को और तेज कर रही है, वाटर स्प्रिंकलिंग के अभियान को।
और ये जो दिल्ली सरकार है ना, दिल्ली सरकार, कल दिल्ली के लोगों ने उनकी छाती पर पटाखे बजाए हैं, छाती पर। ये देश की संस्कृति के विरुद्ध की सरकार है।
पंजाब क्योंकि इनकी सरकार है तो पराली से पॉल्यूशन नहीं है पंजाब से, अगर दिवाली है तो पटाखों से पॉल्यूशन है, लेकिन सिर्फ अपनी स्किन सेव करने के लिए तरह तरह की बहाने करते रहे और दिल्ली के लोगों को जहरीली सांस लेने के लिए मजबूर करते रहे।
With Chhath Puja nearing, another environmental crisis looms large. Devotees planning for the Chhath Puja, in which they worship the sun god, were confronted with a daunting sight. Thick toxic foam formed on the Yamuna river, posing grave risk to those who take a dip in the river.
The deformers are being spread on the water at Yamuna river at Kalindi. Kunz to deal with the situation, but certainly, don't be mistaken, it is not going to improve the quality of the water of Yamuna river. This is only dealing with the foam. It's a cosmetic measure that is being taken by the agencies to deal with the foam that has covered Yamuna river at Kalindi Kunj right now.
With both air and water quality deteriorating rapidly, Delhi and the region braces for yet another pollution emergency in a cycle that repeats year after year. Bureau Report, India Today.
So how are we faring in the big battle against pollution? Are citizens, our governments being able to rise to the challenge and bring pollution levels down? Let me first give you a sense of where things stand the day after Diwali. So I look at figures for the last 4 days. This is the net aggregate level of pollution as measured through PM 2.4 particulate matter and where it stands. So if this was 440 on the 4th of November 2021, 374 in 2022, 302 in 2023, it stood at 386 on October the 31st, 2024, which suggests that relative to the last few years, the day after Diwali, pollution levels actually rose, but in keeping with the long-term trend, they're actually coming down. But this is just as far as the whole of the NCR region is concerned, which often doesn't paint the exact picture because pollution is different in different regions. So I'll give you the pollution levels for 3 different areas of Delhi. I'll start with Anand Vihar. If you see, and we go back to the 30th of October, at midnight pollution levels about 250, PM 2.5, and then it zooms up suddenly just around the time when Diwali is played and lots of firecrackers were being burst to 992. The good thing though is that it comes down on the 1st of November at around 1 PM to 122, and the reason that happens is because it's relatively hotter now than it usually is around Diwali, as a result of which the pollutant particulate matter doesn't get together in the atmosphere right above the surface. It actually dissipates, and as a result of that, the pollution doesn't hang. The pataka pollution actually just goes into the skies, as it were. This is now Wazirpur, where again we see a similar trend. Pollution here higher than it was in Anand Vihar in the build-up to Deepavali, and suddenly in the evening of Deepavali on the 31st of October, it goes up to 603, and then mercifully it comes down to 124, which is very low given the fact that this is the day after Diwali. I want to come now to Okhla. In Okhla, again, the pollution level relatively calm. Now, the reason that we're having this discussion is to actually look at whether we are winning this war against pollution, or is it too early to get excited? Is this just to do with the heat? Is it to do with the time of the year when Deepavali has been celebrated? Here again, pollution levels relative to how they are around Diwali, quite low. They zoom up around the time people are going and bursting crackers, going up to 904. In many years, our viewers would recall, for several days after Diwali, pollution used to be in this range. From there, it's actually come down to 97, which frankly is quite remarkable. So I'll hold this for a moment as I go across and introduce you to our guests joining us for this broadcast, starting with Anumita Roy Chaudhary, Executive Director for Research and Advocacy at the Center for Science and Environment. I have Abhishek Khar, Senior Program Lead, Council on Energy, Environment and Water, representing our political parties. We have Sardar R.P. Singh, National Spokesperson for the BJP. Priyanka Kakkad represents the Aam Aadmi Party. I want to go across to the expert first. Anumita Roy Chaudhary, happy Deepavali, welcome. I'm quite shocked. I thought there was a mistake in the data when I first saw it early this morning. Pollution levels the morning after Deepavali coming down. I have a few theories of my own, but I'm hardly an expert on pollution. So since you are, why don't you explain why pollution really... There were a lot of firecrackers burst. So it's not as if people became more conscious and burst lesser crackers. Crackers were still burst. Pollution's come down. What's really going on?
First, happy Diwali, Rahul, and everyone. Now, what you have pointed out, Rahul, absolutely right. Now, what is unique about the Diwali this year is, one, that it is happening when it's still warm. And this year particularly, we know that October is turning out to be one of the warmest October for some time. Now, keeping that in mind, when it's warm and hot and not so cold as it usually gets during winter, what happens that the ventilation, natural ventilation, is much more efficient. You have a lot more wind in the city to blow the pollution away, and therefore the build-up doesn't happen the way it usually happens when you have the inversion and a lot of calm, quiet conditions when there is no wind in the city. Now, having said that, during this Diwali particularly, what we have noticed that there was more or less quite an even level during the day. In fact, the afternoons was quite poor level. Of course, that's not good, but very rapid build-up happened late evening and early and at midnight when it actually hit the severe level. But the dissipation, the morning after, has happened much faster. Now, here there are 2 points I really want to highlight. One, of course, what we have already understood. That is the warmer part, lot more wind, better ventilation, and therefore the concentration hasn't built up. But let us add still a word of caution here. We have looked at the pollution levels throughout the October this year, and what we have found that even when you have favorable meteorological conditions, even when the contribution of farm fires had been less than 1% or even 3%, despite that, number of poor days and very poor days this October has been higher than the previous years. And this means that the contribution of the local pollution and the regional pollution is really very high. So even with favorable condition, if you're getting into poor quality and Deepavali is just becoming the tipping point for it, that means a lot of problem we have locally and at the regional scale.
You make a very important point. Very important point. I want to put that question to Priyanka Kakkar. Before that, I want to show this data. Looked at across the years, across different time bands on the day of Diwali, and what you can see here, and I think this is because when people see the kind of air there is around them, pollution levels low, they say, "Sab changa si, we can do what we want, we can burst as many crackers, we don't need to worry about farm fires, we don't need to worry about vehicular pollutions because it's all under control." Now here's the thing, if you look at 2022, 2023, 2024, pollution levels, and that's the point that Anumita was also making, across different time bands haven't come down. So if you imagine that things are getting substantially better, they aren't. Pollution levels are still across, so if you see last year was frankly better than this year, even though it may not feel like that, but last year was actually better than this year. If you look also at the farm fires, and I'll bring that on our screen right now, there has been some decline in trend in Punjab, but Haryana's had a fair number of farm fires now, parali burning catching up in Punjab as well, which happens in November, and farm fires in Uttar Pradesh and in Madhya Pradesh. The biggest concentration is actually in Madhya Pradesh, which doesn't bother the capital as much and therefore doesn't become as big a controversy. But if you see, farm fires in Madhya Pradesh are also a big issue. But I want Priyanka Kakkar to respond to the point that Anumita Roy Chaudhary was making about the fact that, this whole campaign earlier that, because people burst crackers, therefore there is pollution, and that is terrible. Even the Aam Aadmi Party encouraging people to to light up diyas. The point that Anumita makes is important. It is local factors, vehicular pollution, industrial pollution, regional pollution, that is contributing to us having more poor and very poor days than in previous years. So it may superficially, the day after Diwali, because of the heat, because of the fact that Diwali happened earlier towards the end of October, because of those kind of factors, it may feel better, but actually the trend is still very dangerous.
Good evening, Rahul Kanwal. A very happy Diwali to you and all your viewers.
And to you.
Rahul Kanwal, Aam Aadmi Party is the only government in Delhi which has constantly been working against pollution, whether it is short-term goals or long-term measures, whether it is in Punjab, and the results are for all to see. Whether you look at the economic survey report tabled in the Parliament 2022-2023, which notes that there's a reduction in pollution in Delhi up to 31%, whether you hear the Union Minister, Agriculture Union Minister Shri Shivraj Chauhan ji's recent bayan, who was also forced to acknowledge that Punjab has done a stupendous job and parali production has reduced. We have constantly worked at these measures, whether it was the EV policy, whether it was scrapping of old vehicles, whether it was the tree transplantation policy, increasing our green cover. We have worked at different levels. There is electricity 24/7, which means that diesel generators are completely prohibited, whether the industry is converting to PNG, whether the shutting down of thermal power plants. The Aam Aadmi Party has been constantly at it. Now there is the NCR region also, which is Satawa with Delhi. We all are aware, and we cannot close our eyes to this fact. What has also happened is that there is a study that the world's most polluted countries, India ranks at number 3 out of 134. That is the reality of it. And if you go further into that data, you will see that 42 of the states are from India, which is most polluted. It is an embarrassing data, but it stands true. Then again, it says of those 42, 20 are in Haryana. These are all data, facts. You can verify me, cross-verify me. I am stating what is available on record. The government this time also noted that while there was a reduction in Parali burning incidents in Punjab, same were same saw an increase of up to 71% in Uttar Pradesh, 23% in Haryana, and Madhya Pradesh took the cake in this department, like you also previously said. So it has to be a fight where we all have to come together.
Okay, can I pause you to ask that question to RP Singh? Now, RP Singh, here's the point the Aam Aadmi Party makes. One, that they're the only party that is consciously, actively, aggressively trying to change societal behavior, even if they're getting some pushback for it. They're encouraging people to light diyas. They're trying to reduce the number of Parali fires in Punjab, and some of it is beginning to show results. They're saying a lot of the BJP messaging on this seems to, reflect climate denial, fire denial, pollution denial, where you're saying, "Arey, hame patake nahi burst karne de rahe." You seem to be on the wrong side of this equation. Instead of trying to make things better, you are insisting and demanding that things be allowed in a way that they don't necessarily get better, that you're not helping the good fight.
Rahul, very happy Diwali and happy Bandi Chhod Divas to you and your viewers both, and also especially to Priyanka Kakkar also. Because this time people celebrated Diwali and still the pollution is at a level which is not in that condition where there's a lot of alarm like last year. But coming to the core issue, Rahul, the pollution in Delhi is because of what reasons? Let's identify that and then let's go further on it. Delhi major pollution is because of vehicular pollution, which is 41.6%. Check on the data. Diwali pollution, the cracker pollution is just 1%. Then is the dust, which is almost 15%, and which need to be taken care. Then is the industrial pollution also, which is also a big chunk of the pollution in Delhi. Now, what's happening on all these three fronts, and then I'll come to the Parali issue also. I'll let you know what's happening in Parali, on Parali account in both these states, Haryana and Punjab. And you can add UP Madhya Pradesh, but UP Madhya Pradesh don't affect Delhi because the winds blow in such a fashion that they come from north and move toward east and center, and not that other way around. That's the flow of the winds. Experts will tell you, the meteorological experts can tell you on this. But coming to the issue of what's happening in Delhi, Delhi needed some 15,000 buses 10 years back. The public transport, 15,000 buses. In Delhi, as per my data, which is there from the Government of India, Delhi has 7,683 buses, out of which 1,970 buses had been given by the center, the electric vehicle, which has been provided to all respective states and all cities. So out of which that has been provided. So Delhi still has only 5,713 buses in all. Whereas if this increases, the people's dependency on personal transportation will reduce. One thing. Secondly, I stay in Rajendranagar in R block. From R block you have to go to the metro station, which is nearest to Scrollbag. I don't have any mode of transportation. The last mile connectivity, which was to be provided some 6-7 years ago, which was announced that we will provide the last mile connectivity if you want from your house to be taken care and then to be transported to the nearest bus stand or to the nearest metro station, the transportation provided for. No,
that's an important point. So the fact that public transport...
Can I make a point?
Very quickly.
Another 5 seconds. Yeah, very quickly. Delhi needed some 224, this is not me again, the corporation and the PWD put together 224 mechanized sweeping, mechanized sweeping machines. It has only have 52 till date. So that dust which is on the 60 feet roads still flows. But they blame, no, BJP wale wahan par motorcycle, scooter chalakar dust udate hain. Come on, I mean, we have to grow from that and let's find out the practical solutions. And we are prepared to be part of finding out practical solutions for saving city.
Abhishek Kar, if I look at the map of India and look at the concentration of the polluted areas, it's largely around Delhi, mostly. That's where the maximum concentration is. And as you come down south along the peninsula, there is far more green. There you see on your screen. So it's really in areas where there's a dust bowl, where the air collects, that you see more saffron and red. You know, what's your net reading? Because what viewers want to know is on a long-term average, the trend coming down? Are we beginning to see some wins in the fight against pollution? Or are the gains that we've seen today largely on account of the fact that Diwali was held early, it's hot, and therefore the pollution is just dissipated, which is why it feels cleaner than it otherwise would have been?
Thank you, Rahul, and happy Diwali to you and your viewers. There are two things here regarding Diwali. One, we have been very lucky. Today morning has been one of the relatively more windy days, and unfortunately, the forecast for the next 7 days shows it is not going to be so windy going forward. The second thing is of the temperature was low, was not very high, was not very low, and while that helped in the improved ventilation, that also made avoided emission because people did not burn enough for space heating. Because as the temperatures dip to 15 degree or below, people are going to burn more and more on space heating. And one CW analysis showed that between 15th October and 15th November, while about the vast majority of the pollution was coming from open fires, between 15 December and January, at that point of time, by far the highest contributor becomes household space heating and household cooking. And this is an important thing, Rahul, for the viewers to understand. AQI only tells partially the story. The AQI is basically linked to the concentration, which again is linked to the emission. So once you have certain pollutants in the air, plus you have some meteorological conditions, the combination of that, and it's not a linear function, combination of that leads to a certain concentration level. So we should never be too satisfied or too worried by just looking at the concentration and say, oh, like things are being better. No.
Okay.
I
think you make an important point, and I leave it over there, that don't get carried away, don't get satisfied. If we got lucky, escaped a bullet as it were, it's because of the fact that there was a lot of air, it carried the pollutants away, it was hot, so the pollutant matter didn't get together and dissipated. But this could change as it gets hotter and as people burn more fires in their house. And vehicular pollution, and the fact, as RP Singh says, that there has to be significant augmentation of capacity for public transport. Those are the long-term solutions. I think that's the point that Anumita made as well.
We have done it.
Not really, ma'am. Not as much as is required. The challenge is much bigger than the measures that have been taken. But the good thing is, very quickly, I'm out of time.
It is still highest in the country.
Yeah.
It is still highest in the country. The BJP
is Delhi,
intends to
Delhi has actually seen reduction in pollution levels over a period of time with everything that it has done so far. But even after that, about 25% reduction since 2015, Delhi still requires another 60% reduction to meet the standards for PM 2.5. And that cannot be met with small incremental steps. You really need to get down to the ground reality and address structurally the infrastructure for cleaning up your industry, your vehicles, build up public transport systems, reduce dependence on personal vehicles, address solid fuels burning that is happening in households, construction activity. So now we don't need any more plans.
I think you make an important point. This is the time for implementation, not for making plans. This is a time for action, not for talk. And you need to do much more. You're doing the bare minimum. I think the environmentalists are telling you need to do much more, ma'am. Priyanka Kakkad.
Rahul Kanwalji, I agree with the expert entirely, and I assure you that my government has been constantly at it for the past 10 years. That is why we see this. Of course, we are not satisfied, and we are not saying we've done it all. But you see, there is a state like Uttar Pradesh, NCR, mein jo sata hua hai, and yesterday, the adhikaris of Uttar Pradesh have been seen saying that the pollution is coming from Pakistan. So they need to also be proactive in their approach.
I think everybody needs to get out of climate denial.
We have been seeking time.
Get out of the zone that there is no pollution, it doesn't matter, that you can do whatever you want, it won't make any difference. Because ultimately all of us are breathing this terrible air, which is why we at the United Group very firmly believe that everything, all citizens, society, government, policymakers, everybody needs to come together to fight this collectively. On that note, I want to thank our guests for joining us. I wish you all a very happy Diwali.